Matt, are you really going to miss the birth of your child just to close a deal? Deal's worth more than you're ever going to be, Stacy, Matt replied, his voice cold and detached as he fixed his tie. I stared at him, a lump forming in my throat. How did we get to this point? At 36 weeks pregnant and on maternity leave, I had slowly become accustomed to Matt's increasing absence. His real estate career consumed him, leaving little room for our marriage. Before my pregnancy, I was a dedicated marketing executive. Now, my days were filled with preparing for our baby boy, while Matt's days were filled with contracts and property viewings. Angie, my best friend since college, had been an incredible support. Stacy, you need to stop worrying about Matt and focus on yourself and the baby, she often said, her voice firm but kind. Easy for you to say, I replied once, tears pooling in my eyes. You're not married to a ghost. Angie squeezed my hand. You deserve better. Remember that. My parents, Lydia and Fred, lived nearby and were another source of steadiness in this storm. Dad helped set up the nursery, while Mom fussed over me, making sure I ate well and rested. Stacy, darling, you need to take it easy, Mom reminded me as she set a plate of food in front of me. Stress isn't good for the baby. Thanks, Mom. I forced a smile, eyes darting to my phone, hoping irrationally for a message from Matt. But there was nothing. Days turned into nights, and Matt's empty promises became a grim routine. He'd drag himself home late, reeking of deals and desperation. Busy night? I asked one evening when he finally stumbled in. Don't start, Stacy. I closed a huge deal today, he snapped, barely glancing at me. The tension grew, but I clung to hope that the birth of our child would bring him back to us. One late afternoon, while resting on the couch, the door clicked open. Hey, Matt, I began, only for my words to trail off as Angie walked in. Matt's not here? I shook my head. Out with clients again. She sighed deeply. Come on, let's get you out for a walk. Clear your head. We strolled slowly down our tree-lined street, Angie chatting about her latest project at work. The normalcy of it was a balm, if only temporary. Back home, I shuffled through the nursery, adjusting tiny socks and folding baby clothes. The car arrived, signaling Matt's return. Matt, can we talk? I began quietly. Not now, Stacy, he murmured, eyes glued to his phone. I bit my lip, fighting the urge to scream. How long could this continue? I placed a hand on my belly, feeling a tiny kick. Soon, I reminded myself. As the days passed, one question haunted me. Could Matt be the father our son needed? Mom, what am I going to do? I found myself asking during another quiet dinner. One step at a time, Stacy, she replied gently. We'll be here for you, no matter what. Matt's phone buzzed with another urgent message, and he picked up without hesitation. I glanced at him, heart heavy. The baby kicked again, a fierce reminder of the life about to change. Matt, I tried again, voice trembling. Please be here when I need you, when our son needs you. He looked up briefly, a flicker of something in his eyes before it vanished. I'll do my best, Stacy. But his best, I feared, wouldn't be enough. The pain hit suddenly, sharp and twisting. I doubled over, gripping the kitchen counter. Mom, I cried out, struggling to catch my breath. My phone buzzed incessantly with texts from Matt. Without even looking, I knew he wasn't coming. Stacy, what's wrong? Mom rushed in, panic in her eyes. I think it's time, I panted. Mom grabbed the hospital bag, guiding me to the car as Dad fired up the engine. Hang in there, sweetie. We're almost there, Dad reassured me. We made it to the hospital, nurses swiftly taking charge. I clutched Mom's hand as we moved down the brightly lit corridors. Call Matt, I gasped between contractions. I've called him 5 times, Mom said, worry etched on her face. He's not answering. Hours felt like days as the contractions grew stronger. The hospital room blurred, white walls closing in. You're doing great, Stacy, Mom cooed, wiping my forehead. With every push, all I could think about was Matt not being here, about him treating our child as less important than his precious deals. I ground my teeth, focusing on the baby's need to come out healthy. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, a wail filled the room. My son, my beautiful Nathan. He's perfect, Stacy, Mom said, tears streaming down her face as she handed him to me. I gazed at Nathan, emotions flooding me. The joy of holding him battled with the heartbreak of Matt's absence. As Nathan nestled in my arms, I forced myself to focus on his tiny face, his small breath against my skin. Meeting ran late. I'll come by later. Matt's text felt like a slap. I stared at his words, a cold anger growing inside me. Meeting ran late. Nothing about the birth of his son, just empty words delaying his inevitable absence. "Mom, he'll never change, will he?" I whispered, more to myself than to her. "One step at a time, honey," Mom replied, her voice breaking. Hours drifted by and Nathan fell asleep. Exhaustion took over and I dozed off with a tight grip on his little hand. I awoke to the shuffle of footsteps and the faint beep of machines, but no sign of Matt. Angie appeared, relief on her face. "How are you holding up, new mama? Look at him, Angie." I said, my voice fragile. "He's so beautiful." Angie leaned in to see Nathan, her expression softening. "He's perfect, Stacy. I'm sorry Matt's not here. You deserved better." Angie's words mirrored my own thoughts. Could I keep on hoping when it was clear Matt was never going to come through for us? Evening came, still no Matt. Nurses looked at me with kind pity, as did other new mothers with their partners by their sides. "Stacy, it's been a long day," Mom said gently. "Rest up. We'll take care of things." Nodding, I lay back, Nathan sleeping in his crib beside me. As fatigue pulled me under, one thing was painfully clear. Matt might never prioritize us. But as I glanced at Nathan, I knew I had to find a way forward. For him. For both of us. The hospital room door creaked open, and there stood Matt, looking at his phone instead of us. I glanced up from Nathan, my heart heavy with disappointment. "Finally decided to show up?" I said, unable to mask the bitterness in my voice. "Yeah, got here as soon as I could," he murmured, eyes still glued to his screen. "You missed our son's birth, Matt," I said softly, anger simmering just beneath the surface. He looked up briefly, barely glancing at Nathan before his gaze shifted back to his phone. "I had important clients, Stacy. It's not like you were alone. Your parents were here." I shook my head, disbelief all over my face. "He's your son. Doesn't that matter to you?" Matt sighed, slipping his phone into his pocket and finally stepping closer. He peered at Nathan, then back at me. "I'm here now, aren't I?" I didn't have the energy to argue. "Just hold him," I said, handing Nathan over. Matt held Nathan awkwardly, like he was a foreign object. His disconnect was palpable. "We need to talk, Matt," I began, watching him closely. "About us. About what's been happening." "Now? In the hospital?" He scoffed, eyebrow raised. "Yes, now. This can't wait," I insisted. "Our family can't wait." He handed Nathan back, turning towards the window. "What do you want me to say, Stacy? I'm trying to provide for us, to give us a good life." "A good life?" I echoed, incredulous. "A good life where you're never home? Where you miss the birth of your own child because of a meeting?" "You knew what you were marrying into," he snapped, finally locking eyes with me. "I told you my career was demanding." "But I didn't sign up for this neglect," I countered, keeping my voice steady. "You were different before. Where did that man go? People change, Stacy. This is who I am now. Deal with it." Tears burned at the edges of my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. "What about Nathan? What kind of father will you be to him?" "I'll provide for him. Isn't that what matters?" he said coldly. Mom re-entered the room, sensing the tension. "Everything okay here?" "Fine, Mom," I replied, forcing a smile. "Just talking." Matt pulled out his phone again, an unmistakable signal that the conversation was over for him. "I have to head back to the office. I'll check in later." And just like that, he was gone. A few days later, I was discharged. As we arrived home, Matt was nowhere to be found. Instead, my parents were there, ready to help with Nathan's adjustment. "Welcome home," they exclaimed, bringing a small moment of joy. They helped me inside, talking about the future, but my mind kept drifting back to Matt's coldness. Flashbacks of our happy days taunted me, shared breakfasts, silly arguments over movies, and plans for a future that now seemed impossible. As I settled Nathan into his crib, I whispered, "We'll be okay, little one. I promise." Then, in a burst of determination, I pulled out my laptop and started searching. For answers, for help, for a way forward. Matt's neglect and ambition had pushed me to the edge, but for Nathan's sake, I would fight. He deserved better than this. We both did. Dad offered a comforting hug. "We're here for you, Stacy, whatever you need." I nodded, with tears finally spilling over. "Thank you, Dad. I'm going to need all the help I can get." I settled Nathan into his crib and stepped into the living room, where Matt sat with his laptop, typing away. The tension was thick as I took a deep breath. "Matt, we need to talk about our finances," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He glanced up briefly, a hint of annoyance on his face. "What about them?" "How much have you spent on the condo?" I asked, my palms sweaty. It's an investment, Stacy, he replied dismissively, eyes drifting back to his screen. It'll pay off. An investment with our savings? I pressed, voice rising despite my effort to stay calm. And loans? He looked up again, irritation clear. You don't understand how business works. I understand that you're risking our future for it, I stated, struggling to keep my composure. Matt finally closed his laptop, glaring at me. This is about providing for our family and making sure we have the best. Or is it about impressing your father? I shot back, the words out before I could stop them. His eyes narrowed dangerously. Don't bring my father into this. He's already in it, Matt. You're trying to impress him at our expense, I accused, the pieces falling into place. Just then, the front door opened and Greg walked in. He raised an eyebrow at the tension. Am I interrupting something? No, Greg, just catching up on business, Matt said, his demeanor suddenly cooler. Greg smirked, nodding toward me. Stacy, you good? I nodded, taking a deep breath. Yeah, I'm fine. After an awkward pause, Greg turned to Matt. Did you tell her about the plan with the inheritance? I froze, eyes wide. What plan? Matt's face turned beet red. Greg, that's none of her concern. Greg shrugged. She's your wife, she should know. What plan, Matt? I demanded, stepping closer. Matt's jaw tightened. It's nothing, just a way to secure our family's future. He's using Nathan to gain favor with Daddy, Greg interjected, ignoring Matt's glare. Hoping a grandkid in his corner seals the deal. Is that true, Matt? I asked, my voice trembling with anger. Matt remained silent, his expression a cold mask. That silence said more than words ever could. I turned to Greg. Do you know how much debt Matt's gotten us into? Greg frowned. I didn't know the extent, but I figured it was bad. It's worse than you think, I murmured, feeling the weight of our situation. Good to know where your priorities are, Matt, Greg said disdainfully. I always knew you were a piece of work, but this? Using your kid? Matt snapped. Mind your own business, Greg. Greg shrugged, just looking out for Stacy and Nathan here. Unlike some people. Exhausted and overwhelmed, I turned to Matt. We're done, Matt. I can't do this anymore. Stacy, don't be dramatic, he scoffed. We're just going through a rough patch. I shook my head, tears streaming down my face. This isn't a rough patch. It's our life, and you've ruined it. With that, I walked past Matt, past Greg, and into the room where Nathan slept peacefully, unaware of the storm outside. I knew one thing for certain. I had to protect him from this mess, from Matt's reckless ambition. The fight was just beginning, and I had to be ready. Greg's parting words echoed in my mind. If you need help, Stacy, you know where to find me. The door slammed behind me as I carried Nathan to the car, my heart racing. We're staying with my parents for a while, I said through gritted teeth, not even looking back at Matt. Stacy, don't do this. You're overreacting. Matt called after me. Ignoring him, I strapped Nathan into his car seat and started the engine. I drove in silence, anger and sorrow fighting for control. Upon reaching my parents' house, Mom and Dad were waiting on the porch, concern etched in their faces. What's happening? Dad asked as he took Nathan from my arms. Matt, he's ruining our lives with his schemes, I said, barely holding back tears. Inside, Mom offered me a hot tea while Dad rocked Nathan gently. Tell us everything, Mom urged. Between sips of tea, I recounted the details. The debt, the condo, Matt's twisted plan. Their expressions darkened with every word. He has the nerve to use Nathan as a pawn, Dad growled, his protective instincts kicking in. We'll sort this out. Later that evening, while Nathan napped, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Matt. We need to talk. Come home. I shook my head, knowing a meeting would only end in more frustration. Instead, I opened my laptop and began searching for legal advice. A fighting spirit gripped me. I couldn't let Matt ruin our lives. Days turned into a week. My parents helped with Nathan, providing a stable environment I sorely needed. Meanwhile, I met with several lawyers, finally retaining a fierce one who assured me I'd have a fighting chance. A knock on my parents' door startled me one evening. I opened it to find Matt standing there, an unfamiliar coldness in his eyes. Stacy, enough of this game. Come home, he demanded. This isn't a game, Matt. You've jeopardized our future, I replied, standing firm. You're making a big mistake, he sneered. Make this easy and come back. I crossed my arms, blocking the door. I won't let you drag Nathan and me down with you. Fine, he spat, tossing an envelope at me. Divorce papers. You're holding me back anyway. I stared at the envelope, shock rendering me speechless. Matt turned and walked away without another word. Mom came to stand beside me, her presence grounding me. What did he want? He's divorcing me, I whispered, the weight of the words crushing. Mom hugged me tight. We'll get through this, Stacy, together. Returning inside, I flipped through the papers. Anger welled up. Matt had not only left me, but he had also outlined visitation rights and property divisions that favored him outrageously. No way would I let him get away with this. Days later, I learned from mutual friends in whispered conversations that Matt had moved in with a wealthy client, Celeste. The betrayal added fuel to my fire. Mom, Dad, I'm fighting back. I'm not letting Matt walk over me, I declared one morning. Good for you, Dad said, pride in his voice. Angie also stepped up, offering support. You've got this, Stacy. Nathan deserves better, and so do you. Preparations began in earnest. My lawyer gathered evidence of Matt's neglect and financial recklessness. Greg's surprising support came as an unexpected boon. He hated Matt's tactics as much as I did. One evening, Greg said, Stacy, if you need anything, count on me. Matt's dug his own grave, and I'll help you cover him up. Nathan cooed in his crib while I fed him, my resolve strengthening. We're going to be okay, Nathan. I'll make sure of it. Despite Matt's attempts to drag us down, I felt a growing sense of purpose. The courtroom confrontation was coming, and I knew I had to be ready. For Nathan. For our future. For justice. Courtrooms always felt cold, no matter the season. Sitting beside my lawyer, Mrs. Hayes, the tension in the air thickened. Matt sat across from us with his attorney, looking smug as ever. Your Honor, Mrs. Hayes began, her voice strong and clear, we present evidence of Mr. Miller's financial recklessness and neglectful behavior towards his family. My heart pounded as she laid out documents showing Matt's misuse of our savings and the loans he'd taken without my knowledge. Pictures of unfinished nursery projects and messages ignored while I was in labor flashed on the screen. Matt's attorney, Mr. Collins, tried to counter. These are measures Mr. Miller took to ensure financial stability. His investment in the condo is for the family's benefit. Mrs. Hayes didn't miss a beat. That so-called investment jeopardizes their future. More importantly, Mr. Miller's neglect cannot be justified. She turned towards me, offering a reassuring nod. Stacy, could you explain how Mr. Miller's actions have impacted your life and the life of your son? I stood, my legs slightly trembling but my voice steady. Matt has been absent, physically and emotionally. He missed our son's birth because he was at a meeting. He took our savings and put us in debt for a condo to impress clients and gain his father's approval. And now he's living with another woman, showing zero regard for our family. Matt fidgeted, clearly uncomfortable with the spotlight on his failures. A few days later, while preparing for another round in court, a knock on my door revealed Greg. I have something that might help, he said, handing over a folder. I opened it to find emails and text messages, proof of Matt's deceit and manipulation. That deal with Celeste, the financial strain, it's all here, Greg said. Use it. The next day in court, Mrs. Hayes presented Greg's evidence. Your Honor, these documents show Mr. Miller's manipulation of his own wife and his financial recklessness. Matt's face drained of color as every dirty detail was laid bare before the judge. As court recessed, I overheard Matt arguing with Celeste on a phone call. I did this for us. You knew what this was. He barked, but the line went dead. Celeste had hung up on him. His relationship with her crumbling was a small but satisfying vindication. Back in session, Matt was forced to admit his failings under cross-examination. His facade was crumbling, and the courtroom could see it. Finally, the judge spoke, her voice firm and decisive. Given the evidence presented, it is clear that Mr. Miller's actions were detrimental to the family's welfare. Full custody of Nathan Miller is awarded to Stacy Miller. Mr. Miller is required to sell the condo to settle debts and provide appropriate financial support to Stacy Miller and their son. A weight lifted off my shoulders. Relief washed over me as I hugged Mrs. Hayes, tears of gratitude streaming down my face. Matt looked utterly defeated, his once certain arrogance replaced by a grim realization of his downfall. Walking out of the courtroom, I felt a new strength within me. I clutched Nathan close, knowing the fight had been worth it. Stacy, you did it, Mom said, embracing me outside the courthouse. We did it, I corrected, looking at my family and friends who stood by me. Greg approached with a small smile. Told you could count on me. Thank you, Greg, I said sincerely. As the crowd thinned, Angie squeezed my hand. What's next, Stacy? I looked at Nathan, then back at her. We start fresh, build a new life, one step at a time. We walked away from the courthouse, the future suddenly filled with possibilities. For Nathan. For me. For a new beginning without Matt's shadow looming over us. It was time to rebuild, stronger and wiser, ready to face whatever came next. Sitting in the courtroom once more was nerve-wracking, but I held my head high. This was the final showdown. Matt sat across from me, eyes cold and resentful. His facade of control was slipping, and everyone could see it. The judge's gavel came down, calling the court to order. Mrs. Hayes stood up, ready for battle. Your Honor, today we present further evidence showing Mr. Miller's ongoing neglect and financial irresponsibility. She displayed bank statements and documents highlighting the depths of Matt's financial mess. Each piece of evidence painted a damning picture of his recklessness. Matt's lawyer, Mr. Collins, tried to object. Your Honor, these were extreme measures taken to secure a better future for the family. The judge silenced him with a raised hand. Continue, Mrs. Hayes. She nodded and gestured toward Greg, who took the stand. Greg Miller, could you tell the court what you know about your brother's actions? Greg cleared his throat. Matt was always trying to impress our father. He used Stacy and Nathan to get ahead, using family money recklessly. He even tried manipulating Celeste, but that backfired. I watched Matt squirm, trying to maintain his composure, but failing. Mrs. Hayes pressed on. And what did you do when you discovered this? I gave Stacy the evidence to show how deceitful and irresponsible Matt has been, Greg answered. Matt shot Greg a venomous look. You've always been jealous. This is all about making me look bad. Greg's face remained impassive. No, Matt. This is about doing what's right. The judge leaned forward, her expression stern. Mr. Naff Miller, it's evident from the testimonies and evidence that your actions have been detrimental to your family. Stacy has shown great resilience, and it's clear she prioritizes Nathan's well-being. Therefore, I will uphold my previous ruling. Full custody remains with Stacy, and you will comply with all financial obligations. I exhaled, relief washing over me. Matt looked shattered as the realization of his defeat set in. As we exited the courtroom, he approached me one last time. Stacy, you don't have to do this. We can work something out. I shook my head firmly. You had your chances, Matt. This is what's best for Nathan. His eyes narrowed, revealing his vile nature once more. You'll regret this. I met his gaze head on. No, Matt. You're the one who'll regret losing us. Outside the courthouse, Angie met me with a tight hug. It's finally over. Yes, it is, I said, feeling a sense of peace for the first time in months. Mom and Dad joined us, their pride evident. We knew you could do it, Dad said, his voice filled with emotion. Greg approached, an awkward smile on his face. I'm just glad I could help. You did more than that, Greg, I said, giving him a grateful hug. Thank you. He nodded, stepping back to let me have my moment with Nathan. Holding my son close, I whispered, We did it, little one. We're free. As the days passed, Matt's financial situation worsened. He was forced to sell the condo, and his relationship with Celeste dissolved entirely. His professional reputation crumbled, and he was left grappling with the mess he'd created. Meanwhile, I focused on the future. With the legal battles behind us, I began to rebuild our lives. I returned to work in marketing, finding joy in my career once more. Nathan thrived in the loving environment my parents, friends, and I provided. One night, as Nathan slept peacefully, I glanced around our cozy home, feeling a wave of gratitude. The journey had been rough, but we emerged stronger. Karma had served its due course, and now it was time to embrace the new horizons ahead. I promised myself and Nathan that we'd face whatever came next with courage, resilience, and hope. The storm had passed, and we were ready to bask in the sunlight of new beginnings. Balancing work and motherhood proved challenging, yet rewarding. Every morning started with Nathan's cheerful giggles, a sound that fueled my day. I'd drop him off at Mom and Dad's, knowing he was in good hands, before heading to the office. Morning, Stacy, Angie said, greeting me with a warm smile as I walked in. Morning. Ready for the big presentation? I asked, feeling the familiar rush of excitement. Absolutely. Let's knock it out of the park, she replied, sharing my enthusiasm. Work offered a much-needed sense of normalcy and purpose. I threw myself into projects determined to showcase my skills and rebuild my career. My team rallied around me, respecting the balance I struck between being a professional and a mother. Back at home, evenings were filled with laughter and warmth. Nathan took his first steps, and I celebrated every milestone with my parents. Life started feeling like a new kind of normal. One evening, while feeding Nathan, my phone buzzed. A text from Greg. "Can we meet? Need to discuss something important." Curious but cautious, I agreed. We met at a local cafe where Greg's expression was serious. "Stacy, there's something you need to know," he began, his tone grave. "Matt's been trying to undermine you at the office, spreading lies to our father, hoping to turn him against you." My heart clenched. "Why won't he just leave us alone?" "Because he can't stand losing," Greg replied. "But listen, I've got an idea. There's still money involved from Dad's business, and I want to make sure Matt doesn't get his hands on it." I nodded, desperate to protect Nathan's future. "What do you need from me?" "Just your support. Together, we can redirect Dad's investments to benefit Nathan." "It's what he would have wanted," Greg explained. It was risky, but I trusted Greg. "All right, let's do this." Over the next few weeks, Greg and I worked tirelessly to secure the investments. We presented our case to his father, backed by evidence of Matt's manipulations. The old man listened, eventually agreeing to our plan. Matt's downfall continued. His schemes backfired, and he was left to grapple with the repercussions. Meanwhile, Greg and I ensured that Nathan's future was secure. One day, while playing with Nathan at the park, I felt a deep sense of peace. Angie joined us, watching Nathan toddle around with a grin on her face. "How's it feel to finally have everything sorted?" she asked. "Honestly, it's freeing," I responded, watching my son's joyful expression. "I didn't think we'd get here." Angie patted my shoulder. "You're stronger than you ever knew." As the days passed, Matt's presence in our lives faded. He struggled to find stability, his once promising career in shambles. Karma had come full circle, and he was forced to face the consequences of his actions. Meanwhile, I thrived. My career flourished, and Nathan grew up in a loving, supportive environment. We weren't just surviving, we were thriving, building a future full of hope and promise. In a final gesture of gratitude, I decided to help Greg. His loyalty and support had been invaluable. Redirecting some of the investments to aid his startup, I ensured that Matt's former schemes benefited someone who truly deserved it. One evening, as the sun set, I sat on the porch with Nathan in my lap, feeling a deep sense of contentment. I had fought hard, and it had paid off. The future looked bright, and I was ready for whatever came next. Looking at the horizon, I whispered, "We've come a long way, little one. This is just the beginning." Nathan giggled, and I smiled, filled with hope and confidence. We were ready to embrace our new horizons together, stronger than ever.
My husband fell seriously ill and passed away 10 years ago. Since then, my daughter and I have supported each other and lived our lives. Due to the loneliness of not having a father, there was a longing for a dad for my daughter. Time passed, and I found a younger lover. He is a kind person and promised to make me and my daughter happy. After that, I decided to introduce my daughter to my soon-to-be remarried partner. I was sure that my sweet daughter would give me her blessing. "Mom, that person is absolutely no good." "Huh?" When I asked my daughter, who possesses a mysterious power for the reason, a shocking truth awaited me. My name is Emma Walker, and I'm 38 years old. I'm a busy nurse. Right now, my daughter Rory and I live together in an apartment. Rory is a bit lively, but she's a kind and cheerful girl. Our family is a single-parent household, and my husband passed away due to illness 10 years ago. It was a quite severe illness, and despite the efforts of the doctors, there was nothing that could be done. At that time, I was 28 years old, and my daughter Rolly was only 4 years old. I was deeply shocked to the point where I couldn't stand, but I had no time to grieve amidst the preparations for the funeral. After the funeral, As I felt a sense of relief, my husband's portrait with a smiling face caught my eye. Finally, realizing that my husband had passed away, I cried loudly. He was a kind person who always cherished both me and Rory. We shared the workload as working parents, and he took good care of Rory. Even when he fell ill and near the end, he worried about our future, despite his own suffering. After shedding tears, I made a firm decision. I couldn't just keep crying. He must have been the one most saddened. He couldn't witness our daughter's growth before his passing. From now on, I had to protect Rolly in his place. After that, I worked tirelessly for Rolly, making sure to participate in her school events as much as possible. I didn't want Rolly to feel lonely because she had a single parent. My daughter grew up healthy and strong. She often helped with household chores to ease my tiredness from work. "Mom, you always works hard, so this is the least I can do. If there is anything I can do, please let me know." She really grew up to be a kind and thoughtful child. While observing Rolly's behavior, there was something that bothered me. It was the fact that since the day my husband passed away, Rolly started saying mysterious things. "Mom, Dad said sorry for leaving you first." "Huh?" I was taken aback by Rolly's words. I can't help but ask, "What else is Dad saying?" "Daddy says he's going to protect Mommy and me from now on." At that time, I thought my daughter was just fantasizing about her father's love. But afterwards, Rolly started saying mysterious things frequently. For example, there was a time when Rolly hurriedly stopped me when I was about to go to work at the hospital. "Mom, it's dangerous to take the car, so take the bus if you're going to work." "Huh? But then there's the issue of money." The hospital where I work is in the city, so it wouldn't take much time to get there by car. I thought it was a waste of money to pay for the bus. However, Rolly didn't change her opinion. "It is really dangerous. If you don't take the bus, don't go to work." Rolly holds the car keys and refuses to let go. On that day, I reluctantly commuted by bus, but later, there was a multiple car accident on the usual route. Fortunately, there was no fatalities, but there were quite a few injured, and the situation became serious enough for several ambulances to arrive. If I had gone out in my car as usual, I might have been involved too. When I returned home and asked Rolly how she knew about the accident, she said Daddy told her. There are still many more episodes like this. During a trip with Rolly, as we were looking at the hotel gift shop, Rolly whispered in my ear, "That young guy over there is eyeing your back, Mom. Be careful." As Rolly warned me, a suspicious-looking young man approached me. I hugged my back and glared at him. Seeing that, the guy, tongue-tied, quickly fled. I thought I was feeling a bit lonely after losing my husband, but in this way, I was protected by Rolly's magical power every day. Perhaps my late husband is truly watching over Rolly and me. However, I couldn't let anyone exploit my daughter's ability, so this remained a family secret. Never did I expect things to turn out like this. Time passed, and young Rolly grew into a 14-year-old middle schooler. She had a vibe of a modern girl who enjoyed fashion and hanging out with friends. I, as a single mother, worked hard as a nurse. Hospital work was demanding, but it was a fulfilling job. Seeing patients recover and become healthy brought joy to me as well. By the way, I wasn't considering remarrying. I hadn't forgotten my husband, and if someone were to marry me, they would have to love Rory too. I intended to continue living together, just the two of us, until Rolly became independent. It was during this time that I met a delivery man named Michael. He was a bright, devilishly handsome guy with a refreshing charm, and he was popular among the hospital nurses and patients. I also found Michael, who had a charming personality, quite appealing. However, since he was 8 years younger than me, I hadn't regarded him as a romantic interest. That's why I was quite surprised when Michael confessed to me.
Emma, I like you. Please consider dating me with the intention of marrying me one day.
I thought it might be a mistake, but he insisted that he was serious. Of course, I initially refused. I didn't dislike him, but when it came to marriage, I wasn't comfortable with it for a variety of reasons. I appreciate the sentiment, but I'm sorry. I can't see you romantically due to the age difference. And besides, my husband passed away, leaving me with a middle school daughter, who is my top priority. However, Michael didn't back down.
I've also been divorced in the past. We grew apart, my wife and I. My situation may not compare to yours, but I understand the sadness of the relationship coming to an end.
Is that so? In that case,
But I want to marry Emma. I was drawn to you because of your kindness to your patients. If you were worried about your daughter, I will do my best to be as good a father as I can be.
feeling touched by Michael's passionate words, my heart softened a bit. In the end, persuaded by his passion, I agreed to start a relationship. I gradually found myself attracted to him, with his bright and captivating charm. The relationship progressed smoothly, and we soon decided to get married. Considering that both of us were remarrying, I initially thought of just registering our marriage. However, he wanted a ceremony.
Since we are doing it, I want to create good memories. I couldn't arrange it with my ex-wife, so we never had a ceremony.
But it can be quite expensive. I want to save as much money as possible for my daughter.
In that case, don't worry. I have a friend in the wedding business who can help us at the discounted rate. I will cover all the expenses. So would you mind contributing only $5,000 as an initial payment?
I hesitated for a moment at Michael's words, but he strongly insisted.
It's a popular venue, and I want to secure it early.
After considering it, I decided to go along with his proposal, and I withdrew savings from the bank and handed it to him. Later, we went to see the venue Michael recommended, and it was a beautiful place, almost like a castle, and I couldn't help but feel happy. A few weeks later, the day arrived when I introduced Michael to my daughter and parents. I was a bit nervous, but since he was someone who quickly got along with anyone, I thought it would be okay. When we welcomed him into our home, my parents were impressed by Michael's politeness and charm. He had been working for a courier company, but was later headhunted by a real estate company and decided to change jobs. Michael's new apartment is available at a discounted rate. What do you think, Dad? Would you consider investing in it? My mother seems uninterested in Michael's talk, but my father was enthusiastic. However, Rolly remained expressionless, staring at Michael. Despite several attempts to engage her in conversation, Rolly responded with brief and indifferent answers. Michael was also taken aback by Rolly's cold attitude. On the way home, he asked me about Rolly's attitude.
I'm a bit concerned about Rolly's reaction. I feel like she's unusually cold towards me. Did I do something to upset Rolly?
I don't think so. Perhaps she's just confused about my remarriage. After all, we've been a single-parent family for a long time. Once she gets used to it, I'm sure she will get along with you, Michael. Rolly is in adolescence, and it's a challenging age. It's not surprising for her to have mixed feelings about my remarriage to Michael. Even after getting married, I will make sure not to neglect taking care of Rolly. That was my determination. However, I would later realize that it was a misunderstanding in my thinking. When Michael left, Rolly approached me with a serious expression. "Mom, you absolutely can't marry that person." What's wrong? Why all of a sudden? Whenever Rolly, who possesses a mysterious power, expresses a negative opinion, there is always a reason. Rolly began to explain about Michael with a solemn expression. "That person has deceived many people before. Saying he wants to make you and me happy is just a lie. He wants your and Grandpa's money." I was shocked by Rolly's words. I never thought that kind Michael would. I thought so. But Rolly's power is real. Considering the events leading up to this point, it may be too much to assume, and jumping to conclusions can be dangerously risky for a lifetime. After a bit of deliberation, I decided to do some research on Michael. I thought that if there was something wrong, I could handle it. And if there was nothing, I could have peace of mind. As I investigated Michael, suspicious aspects started to emerge one after another. Firstly, when I contacted the wedding venue where we paid the deposit, the staff said, "There's no reservation like that." Of course, they hadn't received the supposed deposit either. The staff later checked with the venue's owner, but there seems to be no acquaintance of the owner named Michael. He claimed that he got the venue at a discounted price through an acquaintance. When I contacted the delivery company where Michael worked, it turned out he was just a part-time worker. Even when I inquired at the real estate company, where he claimed to have changed jobs, they said there's no such employee and no new employee has joined. At this point, I had to admit that something was seriously wrong. Feeling ashamed, I realized that categorizing Rolly's opposition to the remarriage as typical adolescent was a misguided assumption on my part. She sensed my crisis and had been desperately warning me. For the time being, I shared information about Michael with my parents. Since I couldn't talk about Rolly's mysterious power, I told them I felt something suspicious and decided to investigate. My parents, upon learning about Michael's true nature, were furious. On the contrary, Rolly had a look of "I knew it." As my parents, Rory, and I were discussing our future, the doorbell rang. Coincidentally, the central figure in the conversation, Michael, had arrived at our house. He entered the house with a silly grin, saying,
"Sorry, I forgot something."
Unaware of our family's cold stares, Michael began to talk.
"Oh, right. There's something I need to tell your dad. About the investment we were talking about before. I just called the company, and someone showed up who wants the very cheap apartment I talked about."
The way he speaks with such enthusiasm, it is obvious that Michael is trying to deceive my father. However, my father doesn't fall for it. "I see. So you were planning to deceive my father like this, just like you successfully fooled me." When I said that, Michael's expression darkened. Panicking, he quickly denied my words, saying,
"What are you talking about? I'm providing good information for your father's sake. What's this talk about deceiving you in the first place? Stop teasing me."
Michael, with a sense of indignation, vehemently asserted his innocence. His overly confident demeanor made me wonder if I was misunderstanding something. With his acting skills, he must have deceived many people until now. However, my evidence-based approach rendered his acting ineffective. So I said, I see through your insincere acting. I understand everything now. Your name, Michael, is also fake for the scam, right? What's your real name? Michael finally froze at that statement. You didn't reserve the wedding venue, and the story about the down payment is a lie, isn't it? The acquaintance with the owner is also a complete fabrication. Give me back my $5,000. Seeing me like that, Michael glared at me. Then he tried to escape through the front door without saying a word. Michael was quickly called by my father. My father holds a black belt in judo and has experience instructing at the police academy. For my father, restraining someone like Michael, who isn't particularly well trained, is a piece of cake. While my father detained Michael, my mother reported the incident to the police. Michael, driven into a corner, finally asked me for help.
Emma, please help me. I truly love you. I intend to pay the wedding deposit, just a little delayed. Please don't report it to the police.
I'm fed up with Michael's attitude. Why does he think I will help him in this situation? Does he really think I'm that foolish? Even though I was deceived, the fact that I was about to marry such a fraudster makes me feel like a complete fool. Before I knew it, I found myself yelling at him. Don't play games. There's no way I will believe such things now. Your claims of loving me and cherishing Rory, they're all lies, right? You're truly the worst kind of man.
No, it's not like that. I truly care about you, and I never intended to deceive.
Enough. I can't trust anything you say anymore. Be prepared. I will sue you for marriage fraud. Never come near me and my daughter again. With that, Michael finally became quiet. Later, he was taken into custody by the police and promptly convicted. I didn't know at the time, but he had a history of committing serious fraud and was on the wanted list. I could never have imagined having such a criminal close to me. Regarding the $5,000 I paid, it was found at Michael's hideout, still in the bag, and later returned to me. Naturally, I sued for marriage fraud and demanded alimony. There were other victims, and Michael was sued by all of them. Some, like my father, were duped by investment stories, while others, like me, were victims of marriage scams. Behind Michael's cheerful facade, he concealed a truly malicious nature. When the news of his arrest reached the hospital, patients and nurses were in disbelief. It's understandable, as he had presented himself as a bright, friendly face to everyone. This time, thanks to Rory, we were truly saved. I almost fell for a marriage scam, and my father was almost swindled out of his money. When I asked her how she had discovered Michael's true nature, she replied, "Thanks to Dad. I can't entrust my precious wife and child to that guy." Dad said, and was angry about that. Him? Dad, is always watching over you and me from above. I will never let you two be unhappy. Dad always says. Oh dear. When I heard Rolly's words, I felt like crying a little. Even though my husband has passed away, he has been watching over us from heaven. And so, peaceful days with Rolly have returned. From now on, I want to express gratitude to my husband in heaven and continue living happily with my child. How dare you! I will never forgive you for hurting my precious daughter. Even Edward is angry. How will you take responsibility for this? My mother-in-law is furious, screaming at me over the phone. My sister-in-law has been in a hit-and-run accident after she supposedly turned away from me. She is upset that I'm the cause of it. Wait a minute. I have no idea what you're talking about. Edward, my father-in-law, takes over the phone and tells me how it happened, but I have no recollection of it at all. It's a misunderstanding. I wasn't even there. I try to explain to my in-laws repeatedly, but they don't listen to me at all. Sandy is hurt, and it's my fault? What have I done? I don't know what to do, so I ask my husband for help. He then says, "Oh, that day." I'm stunned to hear his story. I'm still unaware at this point that there is horrifying truth hidden in this accident. My name is Emily, 29 years old. I married my husband Mark 2 years ago, and we've been living together, just the two of us. We were classmates at the same university. We became friends through studying and hanging out together. After graduating, we went to work at different companies, but we were close enough to meet up regularly on weekends. We started dating when I was 26, and 6 months later, we got engaged. I was thrilled to get married to him.
Now that we are married, what are you going to do about your job?
I will keep working. We need to make sure we have enough money for our future baby. I could have been a housewife since I enjoyed keeping the house in order, but I chose to work instead, thinking about our future. However, when the busy season came and I had to work late every day, we began to clash over the housework. Even though Mark came home first, he ignored responsibility for chores and spent his time watching TV. I had expected him to be more productive at home since we both had full-time jobs. If you got home before me, why don't you take care of the house? I've been exhausted from the busy season, so let's help out each other out here.
I know you're busy, but you know my nature, right? I can clean up after myself, and I'm not suited for housework. I'm actually making more money than you, so it's okay for me to laze around at home, right? It's your decision to keep working anyway. I didn't agree on sharing the chores.
He did make a better income than me, indeed. I admired and respected him for that, but I was getting fed up with him for pushing all the chores on me without the slightest cooperation from him. He had a younger sister, Sandy, who was married with a 1-year-old child. My in-laws lived a half-hour drive from us, but she lived about a 15 minutes walk away, so we often saw each other. "Hi, Sandy. Your kid is really cute. I know it must be tough raising a child, but if you need anything, you can always count on me." "Thank you. I hope you have a baby soon too." I took time out of my busy schedule to learn about child education so that I could put it into practice as soon as I had one. I felt like I could get through my stress better by thinking about my bright future. One day, however, something unexpected happened. While I was at work, I received a call from Alice, my mother-in-law. "Sandy was in a hit and run last night around 10 p.m. "No way! Really? How is she now?" I could not hide my shock and hope that she was all right. What Alice said next was outrageous. "How dare you pretend like you don't know? She was injured because of you. Even Edward is furious that you hurt her. How are you going to take responsibility for this?" She was upset that I was the cause of the accident. "Excuse me? What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb with me. Edward told me exactly what happened." I couldn't understand what she was talking about. Edward took over the phone and explained to me what had happened. According to him, it started with Sandy's husband getting wasted at home. He started ranting and raving about the child's cry, and even went so far as to throw things around. Sensing that she was in danger, Sandy took the child and came to my house for refuge, but I turned her away. She was in despair and was on the way back home when she was hit by a moped. She suffered a broken leg, but both of them avoided life-threatening injuries. I was relieved to hear that. There was one thing that bothered me though. I was not at home around 10 p.m. the night before, but I supposedly turned her away. I was still working at my office around that time, so I didn't see her in the first place. It makes no sense what you are saying.
Can anyone confirm your alibi?
Well, I really don't know anything, believe me. I tried my best to explain the misunderstanding, but my in-laws didn't listen to me. They were angry and hung up on me. I had no recollection of what they had said, but one thing was certain. Mark must have been home last night around that time. Let's ask him. Maybe he can tell me what happened. Assuming that he was somehow involved, I decided to tell him about the call and question him. I left work early and returned home in the early evening. He came back later that night.
I'm back. I'm so tired. Honey, can you make dinner fast? I'm starving.
Hey, hon. How was your day? I want to ask you something before dinner, okay?
Yeah, what's up?
Did Sandy come over last night around 10 p.m.?
Yeah, she did.
So it was true that she showed up at our house.
She must have been running with her kid in tow, 'cause she was out of breath.
And did you let them in?
No, I didn't. The TV show was just getting better.
I was speechless at his selfish reason for not letting them in. What kind of excuse is that? You couldn't let them in regardless of the TV or whatever, right?
Oh, but you remember? You told me not to let them see the messy house when she comes over, didn't you? If I had let them in, you must have been mad at me. It's your fault for not cleaning. I was just following what you told me to do.
He countered with a smart-ass comment.
If anything, you should be thanking me for not making you look like a useless housewife who can't even clean.
He was getting smug. You really refuse to clean up after yourself, do you? I did say that before, but under the circumstances, you should have let her in, don't you think? She needed refuge because of her husband's violent outburst. You turned her away, and then she got into an accident. You may not be directly responsible, but you're at least a little bit at fault. I blamed him, but he showed no sign of remorse.
You were just being nice when you told her to count on you for anything, right? The moped that ran over her was at fault anyway. It was her fault too for walking around aimlessly at night. I just refused to let her in. I don't see why I should be blamed for it. Most importantly, she survived, so let's not talk about it anymore.
He ended the conversation forcefully with a snicker and went out to get something at a deli. I noticed that there was a discrepancy between what he said and what my in-laws had told me. I immediately called my in-laws and explained everything he said. Mark just told me about last night. It seems that he was the only one at home and turned Sandy away. I guess this proves that I was not at home, right? Can you still say it was my fault? I thought it was enough to clear my name, but Edward insisted.
How can I believe such a thing? You are such a coward. You are just trying to get away by blaming Mark.
He still blamed me and didn't want to hear any of my argument after that. I assumed he didn't want to believe that his son was at fault for hurting another beloved family member. I got it, but I could not just back down. 3 days later, I went to my in-laws' house. I was determined to prove that I was not at home that night and that I was nothing but innocent. After explaining the situation to my supervisor, I got my time card and a still image of me working in the office at the time of the accident. I had enough proof. When I arrived at their house, I explained the reason for my visit. Thank you for taking the time to see me today. During our phone call the other day, you accused me of turning Sandy away. I would like to clear my name here today.
Well, you sound confident.
I see. Let's hear it. Sandy was also present with a cast on her leg. I explained to them about the night of the accident. How about it now? Is there anything you're still bothered about? Then Sandy said, I was sure that you're at home. I was perplexed to see her, truly looking confused. Well, I didn't really see you, but I heard a woman humming in the bathroom. Mark went to ask you if we could come in. You supposedly said no, so we turned away. Hold on a second. Who was the woman in the bathroom? I called Mark to come over quickly, and the family members crowded around him intently.
Oh, come on. You're still talking about it. I only turned her away because Emily told me to. It wasn't my fault.
He still showed an unchanging attitude. Sandy said there was a woman in the bathroom. Who was she?
She's just a friend. She was helping me clean up because you were neglecting your chores. It's your fault after all, for causing me trouble to get help from her.
He insisted that he had nothing to do with the accident. You know, I didn't want to show you these right here, but you recognize them, don't you? I presented pictures to them. Those were of a strand of hair that was not mine on the bed, and of a used condom that he forgot to put away. Mark broke out in a cold sweat. You sent Sandy away, and when I came home, you were sleeping on the sofa in the living room. I thought you would catch your cold, so I went into the bedroom to get a blanket. I found the hair and the condom there. Your untidy nature got the best of you. Did you seriously think that I wouldn't find out? He had turned Sandy away because he didn't want us to find out about the affair. He was unable to say anything in the face of conclusive evidence. Apparently, he had been seeing his adulteress every day, taking advantage of the fact that I had been working overtime. He brought her home for the first time that night because he was running out of money before payday. While everyone was in an uproar over his affair, I received a call. I asked one of our neighbors who had a surveillance camera to check the footage of the time Sandy came over. It showed that a short time after Sandy left, a moped came out of my driveway at a great speed. Wait! No way! The driver of the moped it was the adulteress. It turned out that the person who hit and injured Sandy was Mark's lover. The truth about the accident was revealed, and the case was settled. My in-laws and I were outraged that Mark was the culprit in all of that.
I don't remember raising you to be like this. You can't take care of your sister or wife, and you can't even clean after yourself. You can't even get ahead in life.
You really are the worst brother. Do you know how hard Emily works at her job and takes care of her home? Not only does she do all that, but she helps me as well. She's a way better person than you. I am ashamed to be the sister of an idiot. I'm not going to stay with you after this. I've put up with your laziness for a long time, but I've reached my limit and I'm tired of it. Besides, you take advantage of my busy schedule and cheat on me. You're nothing but a scumbag. I'm getting a divorce. Mark was in a complete state of distress.
Please forgive me, please.
He was on his knees apologizing, but none of that made any difference to us. A few days later, I filed for divorce. I demanded a large amount of alimony from Mark to make amends for his past mistakes. When the hit-and-run driver was arrested, we found out that she was a colleague of Mark. Sandy charged her for the injury and emotional distress. Later, she was fired from her job.
I got fired because of you, moron.
Your sister is coming after me with a hefty compensation, and I'm screwed. She cursed Mark in a vulgar manner like a truck driver. Even though they were at work, she could care less to be loud and violent. Mark had blamed me for everything and didn't have a gut to argue against her. Then, he became uncomfortable at work and left the company voluntarily. He spent way too much on the adulteress that his savings were almost gone. He couldn't afford to pay the alimony and was having a hard time finding a new job. He works part-time job to pay the rest of the alimony, while living in a dodgy apartment now. My in-laws visited me after everything was settled.
We are very sorry for doubting you and making rude remarks about you. I sincerely apologize.
I am sorry too for having spoken so harshly to you. I know the affair of my son came as a shock to you as well. Please let bygones be bygones. I know that my brother has deeply hurt you, and that I myself doubted you a little. I'm really sorry. And thank you for finding the real culprit for me. They apologized profusely for doubting me and for the affair. By the way, Sandy and her husband are also getting a divorce due to his drinking problem. She and her child are now living with her parents. I'm still on good terms with my ex-in-laws. Mark blamed others for all of his mistakes, which came back to hurt him later on. I should honestly admit my mistakes and live my life with pride so that I can move on to the next chapter.
My husband divorces me after building a new home and taking care of him for all these years.
Now that our new house is all built, I thought I'd get a new wife too.
Excuse me? What do you mean by that?
I literally mean that I'm going to get a new wife. Since the house is new, I will also get a new wife. So, in other words, we are getting a divorce, Aubrey.
Saying that, my husband Tristan put the divorce papers onto the table. Then, my mother-in-law Margaret, who was sitting next to me, began to check the divorce papers. After checking the papers, Margaret looked at me with a serious look on her face and said this: "Aubrey, get a divorce with my son, please." Huh? My name is Aubrey, and I am 32 years old, and I am a housewife. I married my husband Tristan 5 years ago. We met up at a matchmaking party. He was a very reliable businessman working for a major company who earned high income. And plus, he was handsome and had a very kind personality, so I fell in love with him right away. Well, I think all the women at the matchmaking party were completely in love with him. But I won the competitive match between us women and succeeded in getting him to go on a date with me. I had a great time on our first date, and he was smiling and being happy for the whole time. He then started asking me out on several dates, and then we officially began to go out. We had a really great relationship as a couple, and after a year and a half of dating, Tristan proposed to me, and we got married. I was very happy in our newly wedded life with Tristan, and once I got married, I quit my job. Since my husband earned a lot, I did not necessarily need to work, and I got to focus on being a housewife. So, I devoted myself to do everything around the house and supported my husband as his housewife. I worked hard to make breakfast and lunch every day for Tristan, did my best to clean the house every day, and changed the menu and cooked different dishes for dinner every day. My husband always praised me and thanked me for my hard work around the house.
Thank you so much for the delicious meals every day, honey. Because you're doing a great job around the house, I can do my best at work, you know?
I'm very glad then. You acknowledging me like that just makes me more motivated to work harder around the house too. We have a very good relationship even as a married couple, and we acknowledge each other's skills and qualities. And I thought that we would continue to have a really good relationship and live happily ever after as a husband and a wife. But... Excuse me? An accident? The hospital suddenly called to inform me that my husband had been seriously injured when he was hit by a car while he was traveling around in the company car. As a result, my husband got unfortunately paralyzed in the lower half of his body. The company would provide him with a disability pension through workers' compensation insurance, but now he had to live all his life with the wheelchair, and he was not able to work at all. With everything that had happened so suddenly, both my husband and I had lost all hope. Plus, I was pregnant at the time and was just about to welcome our new family with Tristan into the world and live happily ever after. Since my husband needed to be cared for, I was left to take care of him along with doing all the house chores. My husband was quite shocked at what had happened and had a really rough time mentally for a while. Tristan wouldn't respond to me at all when I tried to talk to him. And suddenly, I would hear him screaming in his room, in which he said,
Why me?
And he was angrily punching the blankets on the bed. I could only watch over my husband and cry. How could this have happened? My husband was just working so hard. Even the car accident. My husband wasn't the one who had caused it, and he had done nothing wrong. But I couldn't stay sad and depressed forever. It is in times like this that I must be strong and fully support my husband. I have to give hope to our baby who will be born soon. I wiped away my tears and ran to my husband. I will do my best to support you, so we will overcome all the obstacles together, okay? I have our child in here. Let's just do our best to be able to smile with our baby. I said this as I hugged my husband, and he hugged me back with tears in his eyes. I decided to move forward from now on, that I would have to do my best with everything that I have. So, I then decided to look for a job that I could do from home. While taking care of Tristan and then having a baby a few more months later, I would definitely not be able to go to the office to work. Which is why I had to find a job where I could work from home. Since I was always good with computers, I decided to start working as a video editor. I began to study how to edit video clips on my own, researching and gathering information from various sources on the internet. Since I had no income while I was studying, I did my best to save money. And as I began to study about editing videos, I was able to learn some skills. So I began taking on easy jobs at a very low price at first, so that I could just gain some kind of experience on editing videos. From then on, I just kept on taking on jobs after jobs. I thought it was important to do a lot of jobs at first, so I increased my workload at an unbelievable pace. Thanks to this, my skills improved hugely after just a few months, and I gradually began to receive orders for higher priced jobs from different clients. Then, I had our baby smoothly, and a healthy baby boy was born. Our son was really adorable, and just seeing our son smile was enough to heal my busy, difficult days of caring for Tristan and working on video editing jobs. I am working hard partly to save money for my son's future school fees, but also because I was planning to build a house with an easy, accessible environment so that my husband can live comfortably in a wheelchair. I didn't tell my husband about that yet, but I have been working hard to save money to build our own home. My husband seems to have regained some of his energy as a result of my devoted care for him and also the birth of our son.
Oh, Theo is so adorable.
Truly, he really is like an angel.
By the time he grows up, I'll try my best to be able to at least play tennis in a wheelchair too.
That sounds great. I'm sure that you'll be able to move around more freely by then, honey. My husband started smiling more and more, which put my mind at ease. The multitasking of work, caregiving, housework, and raising a baby was harder than I had imagined, but I could work as hard as I wanted for the sake of both Tristan's and Theo's smiles. With this in mind, I continued to work even harder. And 4 years have passed since then. I had saved up enough money to finally build a house. So I told my husband that we were going to build a new house.
What? You saved that much money?
Yes, if we build a spacious house with an accessible environment, you will be able to live comfortably and play more freely with Theo too, right?
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Aubrey.
My husband thanked me with tears. Then he made a proposal.
Well then, I have a suggestion. Why don't my parents also live with us and make the house a two-family house?
What?
That way, my mother can help me take care of me and raise Theo, and like that, you'll be able to focus on your work more, and we can all live comfortably, right?
Ah, well, you're right. I was simply grateful for Tristan's idea. After my husband's accident, his parents came to our house regularly to check on him. My in-laws, Jack and Margaret, were very kind and nice people, and they really appreciated me taking care of Tristan. Like that, I had a good relationship with Jack and Margaret, and we were on good terms. So I was fine with the idea of living with them in the two-family house. So my husband and I immediately contacted Jack and Margaret. Both Jack and Margaret were very happy when we suggested that we build a two-family home together. I think that they were both quite happy to be able to be near their son and also to live under the same roof with their grandchild. My husband seems to be in the best mood he has ever been in since that accident, perhaps because he can now own his own home and also be able to take care of his parents by building the two-family house. Tristan was talking more to Theo now, and it made me smile to see that kind of interaction between the father and son. I am sure that this will unite the family as a whole, and we will be able to live happily together. I was filled with hope for our future, and I continued to work hard after that. Our home was steadily being built, and finally, the two-family house was completed. This is where our new life begins. I would make lots of happy memories with Tristan, Theo, and with Jack and Margaret. I would finally be able to feel the joy again which I had felt when Tristan and I were newlyweds. Well, that was what I thought. But when I was packing up my belongings for the move, my husband called me into the living room saying he needed to talk to me. Just as I was wondering what on earth was going on, the doorbell rang and Margaret came over. "Oh, what's the matter, Margaret?" "Oh, well, Tristan told me that he needed to talk to me." "You didn't hear anything about that, Aubrey?" "What? Oh, no, I haven't." Margaret and I looked at each other and both tilted our heads. We ended up heading into the living room, and there my husband asked us to sit down.
"Oh, Mom, you've come at just the right time."
"What's going on?" "You told me that you needed to talk to me about something." When Margaret asked him that, my husband cleared his throat and then began to say something really unexpected and outrageous.
"Now that our new house is all built, I thought I'd get a new wife too."
"Excuse me?" Margaret and I both let out a funny voice. And I completely froze, unable to catch up with what Tristan had said. "What the heck do you mean by that?" Margaret asked my husband instead of me. Then Tristan replied with a huge grin on his face.
"I literally mean that I'm going to get a new wife. Since the house is new, I will also get a new wife. So, in other words, we're getting a divorce, Aubrey."
This time, my husband's words came easily into my mind. "Now, hold on. What do you mean that we're getting a divorce?" I wasn't at all convinced, and I began to shout at him. "Why does it become like this all of a sudden?" Hearing this, my husband continued to grin and say this.
"Because, come on, do you even look at yourself in the mirror? Your hair is dirty, your skin is rough, your face always looks tired, and lately, you're even starting to show gray hair. I'm sorry, but you don't look like you're 32 years old. You look like you're 40 years old, or even an old lady in her late 40s if you ask me. And I don't really want a wife who looks really old like that. So, I'm going to get a new, younger, prettier wife and live happily in the beautiful, comfortable, newly built home.
My mind went completely blank. What in the world was this man talking about? I worked so hard to take care of my husband, worked hard to save money, and even bought the house so that he could live more comfortably. I even saved up the money all on my own and bought a house so that Tristan could live happily and comfortably. And yet, he's demanding for a divorce. What had all my efforts over the past few years amounted to? I was just speechless from all the shock. But my husband continued to talk on, paying no attention to me or how I felt whatsoever.
You know, now everything is so convenient. I can meet new people just by video chats over the internet. I don't know if I should be saying this myself, but I am pretty good looking, you know? I told that girl that we could live in a newly built house, and that I'd receive disability pension, and that my mother would take care of the house chores and also take care of me. And once I told her, she told me she wanted to get married with me, so that's how it's all decided now.
How could you? According to Tristan, the other woman is a young woman and she was about 7 years younger than him. You're just so terrible. So, you just used me and then dumped me?
Well, I didn't ask for any of this and for you to do anything, and you were just doing your best to take care of me all on your own, right?
This is just unacceptable. How could Tristan even say such a thing? As I was being speechless, my husband wheeled over to a drawer and pulled out some papers.
Here, these are divorce papers.
My husband had downloaded the divorce papers, printed them out, and had them already prepared.
I've already signed my part, so you can sign the rest. Mom, you should check this too. And I think I'll also ask Dad to check it too.
Saying that, my husband Tristan put the divorce papers onto the table. All I could do was just sit in silence and watch everything happen. I was too shocked to move my body, even though I wanted to. Then, my mother-in-law Margaret, who was sitting next to me, began to check the divorce papers. I watched Margaret checking the divorce papers. Does this mean that Margaret accepted everything what my husband had said? No way. Does Margaret also think that a young, energetic woman is much better for Tristan? After checking the papers, Margaret looked at me with a serious look on her face and said this. Aubrey, get a divorce with my son, please. Huh? Hearing this, I thought to myself that Margaret really didn't care about me either after all. I guess Margaret thought that what her son said was right. I was very shocked to find out about this. Not only my husband, but also his mother, who had shown me so much gratitude and smile, had also betrayed me. And like that, I would carry a huge scar that would remain with me for the rest of my life. Thinking this, I looked down, trying to hold back my tears. But then, Margaret continued. You should break up with my unbelievable, stupid son as soon as possible, Aubrey. What? I was surprised to hear what I heard, and immediately looked up at her. Tristan was also surprised at what Margaret had said.
Mom? Why would you even call your own son stupid and unbelievable?
Then, Margaret suddenly stood up, approached my husband, and slapped him on the cheek as hard as she could.
Ouch!
How horrible and terrible could you be, Tristan? Do you have any idea how devoted Aubrey has been to you for all these years? Aubrey here has been taking care of you while doing all the house chores, working and raising Theo, you know. How dare you betray her like this? You asshole! This is totally unacceptable, no matter how much you had to go through that terrible accident. You really should be ashamed of yourself. My husband began to flinch as Margaret became extremely angry. I was also surprised because I did not expect Margaret to be so angry at Tristan like this. But Margaret showed no signs of her anger cooling off. I'm so sick and tired of you. I will report this to your father, and I will make sure that we will disown you, as I do not remember raising my own son to be like this. From now on, you will live on your own, Tristan. Oh, Aubrey, I'm really sorry about this, and please just get a divorce with Tristan and live with Theo in that house. And, if you'd like, you can invite your own parents to live with you. What?
Hey! What the heck are you saying, Mom? That house is ours, isn't it?
Stop being so stupid and ignorant. Aubrey was the one who worked so hard to build that house, which is why that house is owned by Aubrey. You can stay here and live with your young wife and have her take care of you here.
No way. She says that she'll marry me because she'll get to live in a new house and that she won't have to do any house chores or even have to care for me. If we don't get to move into a new house, then that's a deal breaker.
I couldn't even care less about that. That's your own fault.
What?
My husband suddenly began to panic more and more.
Hey, Aubrey, please, I beg you. I'll deeply apologize for what I did, so please let us start over. And let's raise Theo together, alright?
And hearing what Tristan had said to me, I suddenly became logical at that moment. Ignoring my husband's words, I began to sign the divorce papers.
Aubrey?
You were the one who suggested for a divorce. So, why don't you enjoy your new life with your new wife? I will take care of Theo in our new house, so don't you worry about us. I will never ever let you near Theo ever again.
Oh no.
My husband had completely turned pale. Then I loaded the car with all the stuff I had prepared for the move and we moved into our new house. I then successfully divorced Tristan. And I filed for child support from my ex-husband. My ex-husband, as expected, was dumped by that young girlfriend. Since I was at home all the time, Tristan couldn't really cheat on me and I could not request for alimony. But instead, my husband lost many things. He has been cut off from his own parents, and he will never get to see his son again. Furthermore, he has no one to take care of him, so he has no choice but to call for helpers or go to a nursing home. No matter how much disability compensation pension he gets, it will cost him a lot of money to have a helper all day long, and I am sure it will not be enough to cover for his own living expenses and rent. But that's not my problem anymore. I hope Tristan realizes how much of a jerk he was and reflects on his own actions and what he has done. I then moved into a new 2-family home with my son and my parents. I have kept in touch with Jack and Margaret since then, and we occasionally go out to dinner together so that they could see how Theo was doing. And now, at this point, I have been doing very well with my job, and I now make more money from home than I did when I was working in a company. I am now able to live happily with my family. I will continue to get along with my family and make lots of memories with them. Tristan is a lousy scumbag husband to betray his wife who cared for him and who devoted her time for him. He got what he deserved. I hope Tristan will spend his life all alone in a wheelchair by himself. I hope that Aubrey and her family have a comfortable and happy life in the new house she has worked so hard to build. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. We hope to see you in our next video.
My mother-in-law uses our money to waste on things, and she keeps asking for money as a result.
That's right. I will never divorce you.
Lucy? What? Can you please convince Michael here? Huh? If you convince Michael to sign these divorce papers that I have right now, I will not tell him where you hid that money. But if he says that he will not sign these divorce papers here, I will tell Michael where you exactly hid the money. My name is Alexandra, and I work in a company. I met my husband, Michael, through a friend, and we have been married for just over 6 months. At the time we were dating, I thought that he is very clean and tidy, and since we both liked cars as our hobby, we became pretty close because of that. Even though I say I love cars, it's not like I like to spend all my money on car parts, or I love to customize my own car, but for me, I liked just seeing the classic cars and also seeing car racing shows. So, to me, my hobby was not really an expensive hobby. And to me, it was enough for Michael and I to go see such events like car shows or car racing shows on our dates. But as for my husband, his car hobby included customizing his car, which he loved to do, and I found that out after we had registered our marriage. Since we both lived in the city center, even though we loved cars, we hardly had any drive dates. Our dates were always somewhere we could go easily by taking the bus, and I was just too busy with work to go far away, like going on road trips. My husband probably took advantage of this and kept his love of customizing his car a secret from me. After I found out, I felt like Michael hid that intentionally, but it's not like I also asked him if he liked to customize his car anyways. And fortunately, both Michael and I work, so we do have enough money. Which is why I decided to accept the fact that Michael loved to customize his car, and spending not too much but a little money on customizing his car is acceptable. But you know what they say, parents of a spender are also spenders. It is often said that children are like their parents, and my mother-in-law Lucy also spends money on her own hobbies. And it is my husband and I who are helping Lucy to pay for her hobbies. Lucy now lives off from the pension, and of course, I would like to provide some assistance for her hobbies. Besides, there may be times when Lucy's pension alone would not be enough to provide for her needs. So, this was something Michael and I were doing out of the goodness of our hearts. And just because we're doing this for Lucy doesn't mean that I expect her to thank us about it all the time. But there are many things that Lucy says and does which makes me think that she's taking it for granted, as if us helping her out was a normal thing for her. When Michael and I first got married, we began to give Lucy $300 a month as a way for us to support her. But gradually, Lucy began to demand for more support from us for some reason, and now, 6 months into our marriage, we are giving her $1,000 a month. My husband spends on his car, and Lucy now spends on her hobbies. Even with both of us working together, now we can't even save enough to get by. I thought clearly that this was getting out of hand, so I decided to discuss the issue to my husband. Hey, it's about Lucy.
What is it?
We can't keep on giving her $1,000 a month. Didn't we only agree to support her with $300 a month?
Yup.
What do you mean, yup? You know that we do have to live our own lives, right?
But it's not like we're in a huge financial trouble, right?
Well, for now, yes, but we have to save money for the future, don't you think so?
For the future? Like what?
Michael, what did you say when you married me? My husband then looks at me really confused, which really irritated me. Didn't you say that you wanted to try for a baby right away?
Oh, yes, you're right. I do want a baby.
Then we'll have to save up, won't we?
But I'm working and so are you, honey. So we should be fine financially, right?
Are you saying that you expect me to work while I'm pregnant? And that we shouldn't take any maternity or paternity leave?
No, that's not what I meant by that. But you don't have any intention in the future to quit your job, right, Alexandra? Then there won't be any problem.
It could depend on companies, but you know that just because we have maternity and paternity leave, it doesn't mean that we get paid our full salary while we're on the leave, right?
What? Really?
You're really taking life that easy, huh?
Well, anywho, we'll manage it somehow. Worrying about the future when it's not even here is just a waste of time. If something goes wrong, we'll figure it out then.
I'm discussing the issue with you because we're facing the issue right now.
Oh, alright. I'll talk to my mom about it, okay?
You better do it. It's a promise.
Okay.
My husband said he would talk to Lucy about it. But even after that, Lucy's spending habits never improved. Whenever Lucy invites me to go to her house, I see some more things in her house which I personally think is all worthless. Oh, welcome. Come on in. I have been waiting for you. Hey, look at this. I bought a new one for my collection. Hey, look. Isn't he just wonderful? Lucy is a fan of this actor, which no one hardly knows about, and just loves to collect items and goods of that actor. Out of my friends, I have the most items collected of him, and everyone is jealous of me. Did you know that other fans can tell how serious I am about him by the numbers of how many goods and items I have of him? Is that so? All I can do is just laugh it off awkwardly. All these goods and items that Lucy gets are all paid from the money we give to support Lucy. Hey, do you know how much this was? Saying that, Lucy shows a poster of that actor with a huge smile on her face. Was it about $30? Oh, come on, Alexandra. He's an actor, for goodness sake. This is why people who doesn't understand the value is just too clueless. It was $180. What? And this one was $300, and that one was $250? Lucy kept on showing off the goods she bought. By that time, my face was just twitching, knowing how much she has spent on these goods and items. If Lucy gets to enjoy her freedom within the limits of her pension, I have nothing to say. Besides, as long as it is $300 a month, I have no complaints about supporting Lucy. But Lucy has never once expressed any gratitude towards our support. It would have felt a little bit more better if she had said thank you at least once. But she accepts our support as if this was nothing special and spends it as if it was her hard-earned money. If it just continues on like this, it would indeed become a huge problem. But then, Lucy began to say something outrageous without even thinking about my feelings. You know, I'm planning to go on a trip with my friends who are also fans to the filming location where that actor filmed for his drama. Oh, I see. Is that so? I mean, what does that mean? So give me $3,000 in cash, okay? I just got so angry at Lucy for saying that so easily to me. Now, wait a minute, Lucy. I can't give that much money to you. Oh, why not? Because then our family finance would collapse. But you and Michael are both working. And you can afford that much money, and it's not that big of a deal, right? Oh, Alexandra, I raised Michael to be an adult, and he is who he is right now because of me. It would be nice to have a reward for that. What is she even saying? It is only natural for parents to raise their kids to be an adult. And a reward for that? What is she even saying? Anyways, supporting you with $3,000 is just not possible right now. Wow, Alexandra, you're so cheap. Cheap? When I have been the one supporting her with money? Who the hell does she think she is? I left Lucy's house in silence. Then when I came home, Michael blamed me for what had happened.
I heard from Mom. You told her that we couldn't give her $3,000? My mom was crying, you know.
So?
What do you mean, so? Why can't you support her?
Well, I'd like to ask you why you're even willing to help Lucy when she's asking for a lot of money.
Because she's my mom, you know. If your parents are in trouble, wouldn't you want to help them?
Yes, of course I would.
Well then.
Your mother is asking for money to pay for her own hobbies, you know that, right? That's not what you call being in trouble, is it?
She is in trouble. My mom can't go to the trip if we don't give her the money.
Well, she can't go because she's spending the money all on everything.
Spending the money? What's so wrong of my mom to enjoy the time that she has left, huh?
Not once did I ever say that she can't enjoy the time that she has left. I mean, first of all, did you even talk to Lucy about the money issue?
What? What are you talking about?
The other day, you promised that you'd talk to Lucy about the amount which we can support her, right?
What? I did?
My husband had forgotten the issue which I seriously discussed with him. We talked about wanting to save enough money for our future baby.
Yes, that's right. I'm sorry, I'll talk to my mom about it properly. Well, now that's solved, let's stop talking about it.
Excuse me?
Anyways, listen, I need to tell you something. I'm thinking of replacing my car to a new one.
Huh? What the hell are you saying all of a sudden?
This isn't sudden. I have actually been thinking about it for a long time. I have actually been getting tired of customizing my current car. If I do replace it, of course, you'd be my first passenger in the car, honey.
I can't believe he's saying this right now to me. And I get to be his first passenger? I'm not happy with that at all. I'm talking about our financial difficulties right now, but what the hell is this guy even thinking about?
I've already put my mind to it, so you know, I've already withdrawn my money.
What? Where are you going to buy it?
This weekend. Now all I have to do is pay the money. Look, it's a lot of money, huh?
Then, my husband took out a thick envelope from his bag and showed it to me with a big smile on his face. You're buying it with cash?
Yes, I'm paying it full, all in cash. Doing a loan would be a waste of money.
How much is it?
It's $32,000. It's actually supposed to be $34,000, but they'd give me a discount of $2,000 if I agreed to pay it right away. So yeah, it's a great deal and I have already set my mind to it.
Wow, he really must be too carefree and stupid. The car he has now has no problems at all and we can still drive around in it. I really didn't understand why he wanted to replace it with a new one. We had just talked about having a baby in the future, but now Michael's trying to replace his car to a new one by spending $32,000 on it. I really don't need a husband like him anymore. So at this point, I finally gave up on my husband. About your mother.
Huh? Are you still talking about that again? Well then, you don't have to give her the money, but why don't you just lend the money to her? If you just lend the money to her, then she'll have to pay back. It's as simple as that. So now that it's solved, we're done talking about this. Because this topic just lets everyone down.
All right. Then I'll make sure to lend the money to her.
Yeah, thanks.
Like that, my husband was in a good mood and put the envelope containing the large sum of money into the drawer. On the weekend, I got up earlier than Michael did and went to visit Lucy. When I handed the money to Lucy, she was so happy. Michael got angry at you, didn't he? Well, yes, you're right. Michael was completely defending for you, Lucy. That's what I thought. That boy is my son, whom I raised with my own hands. You know, he takes very, very good care of me. And after all, he's completely different from a stranger like you, isn't he? You're right. I am just a stranger after all, so I understand your point. As I said that, I received a phone call from my husband, just in time. Everything is going just as I wanted it to be.
Alexandra! Honey, do you know where my $32,000 went? It's gone from the drawer. Did we have a burglar come in, or what should I do?
A burglar? I didn't see any burglars come in.
Well then, how come the money is gone? I mean, where are you right now?
I'm at Lucy's place.
Huh? Did you say that you were going over there today?
Well, it's because you said that I should go lend her the money right away, right?
Oh, that's right. Anyways, I'm in huge trouble. Please just come home quick. Can you help me find the money?
My husband sounded like he was panicking, and I have never heard him like this before. Well, there's no point for you to look for it.
Huh?
Because I gave it to Lucy.
What?
I gave it to your mom.
Alexandra! What the hell are you doing?
What do you mean, what? All I did was hand Lucy the money, you know?
Are you kidding me? That's my money.
Yeah, I know.
Why the hell would you do that?
Because you were the one who said to give the money to Lucy, right?
I only said to give my mom $3,000. Why would you give her $32,000?
Oh, is that so?
You better get the money back from her.
No way.
I've got no choice, do I?
Then, saying that, my husband hung up the phone. Michael was probably going to come over here. Oh my God, Lucy. It looks like Michael is coming here to take away the money. What? Why would he do that? He was saying that that money was for him to buy his new car. What shall we do, Lucy? Even though I asked Lucy this, I already knew what her answer would be. Now that she has a large amount of money in front of her, she will never let go of it, even if it was her son's money. Oh my goodness, we have to hide it. See, I told you. She has no intention of paying it back at all. Saying that, Lucy put away the money into her drawer. Parents and children are just like each other, even to the point of putting things away into the same place. Lucy then made me shut my mouth about where she hid the money, and I just nodded in agreement. 15 minutes later, my husband, who was out of breath, rushed into the house.
Mom, where's my $32,000?
I will not give it back because it was what I was given.
Mom, please wait. I didn't even give it to you. Even if Alexandra gave it to you, she only lent it to you. So please just give it back now.
No way.
Hey, Alexandra. This is all your fault. So you better say something.
So, you don't like it when we give Lucy your money, huh?
Huh?
If we give Lucy the money which we take out from the family budget, it's fine. But when it's your money, you don't want to give it to Lucy.
No, that's not it. Because, I mean, come on, think about it. $32,000 is a lot, right?
Well, if we keep on giving Lucy $1,000 per month in less than 3 years, it would be the same amount of money.
That's not what we are here to talk about.
It is what we're here to talk about. I have been complaining to you about this issue many, many times. but nothing has changed in the last 6 months. I've been too patient, and now I'm just fed up with you. So let's get a divorce.
What? Don't say things like divorce so easily. We've only been married for 6 months.
I guess that you think I'm bringing up about divorce easily, huh? I'm also just sick and tired of you, Lucy, not even trying to return the money to your own son. Hey, how dare you say that to me?
That's right. I will never ever divorce you.
Lucy? What? Can you please convince Michael here? Huh? If you convince Michael to sign these divorce papers that I have right now, I will not tell him where you hid that money. But if he says that he will not sign these divorce papers here, I will tell Michael where you exactly hid the money. Thinking of the money, she gave in to her temptation, and Lucy began to act quickly. Putting aside the fact that she herself had a large stash of money, which was Michael's, she lectured him, saying, "It is natural for children to give money to their parents. Your wife will refuse to give me money in the future," and repeated this over and over again to Michael. And Michael, who is always brainwashed by Lucy, gets influenced by this, and in the end, he quickly filled out the divorce papers in no time. Now I can finally get a divorce. Of course, I didn't forget to have Lucy check the divorce papers after, just in case. And my parents also had to check the papers, in case if there was any problems to the papers or not. Thank goodness I told my parents what was happening beforehand. Then I grabbed the divorce papers right away. And I left Lucy's place and went over to my parents for them to check, and I then went to the city office and submitted the papers. After the divorce, my ex-husband contacted me only once. After moving out of the apartment, he moved in with Lucy, but his mother was still asking him for money. He told me that Lucy had spent all the money she inherited from her husband right away, who had passed away a year before we got married. I don't think anyone will ever want to share their life with such an old woman who is only always spending other people's money. My ex-husband said that he wanted to start over with me, but I hung up the phone without saying anything. I hung up the phone without saying anything because he was someone I didn't need to be involved with anymore. The marriage was very short, but, well, I guess I learned my lesson. This still doesn't mean I've given up on love. I hope this time I can meet someone wonderful. People are serious when it's about money, even if they are your family. I think Alexandra has endured a lot and was very patient for 6 months. I hope that she will meet a better and a wonderful person in the future. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. We hope to see you in our next video.
My mother-in-law looks down on my family and insults my father, assuming that he's poor. So,
The construction business? Oh, wow. So you're a craft worker.
Oh, no, I am...
Well, y'all must have been poor.
Excuse me?
Both my husband, Keith, my whole family, and I were just absolutely mortified and speechless at what my mother-in-law Amelia just said. Since that moment on, the lively dinner party which everyone was enjoying got spoiled. My name is Melissa, and I am 28 years old, and I work at an office. My husband, Keith, and I have been dating for a year now, and we are planning to get married. And today is the day we are going to greet my husband's parents. I have been nervous all morning because I was meeting Keith's parents for the first time. I wonder if I will be able to greet them properly.
Oh, don't worry too much. It'll be okay. My parents are not the kind of people you should even be that nervous about.
But I'm not too sure if Keith loved his parents a lot, but because of that, he hardly talked much about his own parents. which is why I am extra nervous because I literally know nothing about Keith's parents. And I also remember Keith saying this to me.
My mom might say something sarcastic and a little off sometimes, but just shrug it off, okay? I'll always be there, so don't worry.
And remembering what he has said about his mother, my heart beat faster and faster as we approached to Keith's parents' house. And finally, Keith and I arrived at his parents' house. Once we rang their doorbell, both my father-in-law, Jonathan, and mother-in-law, Amelia, came out to the porch to greet both of us. Oh, welcome! Thank you both for coming. It's very nice to see you two.
Come on then, do come in.
Oh, they're actually really sweet and kind to us. Both Amelia and Jonathan greeted us with smiles, which eased my tension a little. And we were led to the living room, so once we got there, we all sat down.
Here you go. We brought some sweets.
Oh, wow! Thank you so much. I'll go make some coffee so that we can eat these together. Oh, please let me help you. Oh, it's okay, Melissa. You're our guest, so please sit down. Oh, thank you very much.
It must have been a long trip for both of you to come all the way from Texas. Oh, well, it was a nice long road trip, and we took turns driving, you know, the two of us.
Oh my goodness, you drove all the way with the car? Well, you young people are so energetic. We drove all the way so that we could do some sightseeing on the way back. Ah, I see. Like that, I can have a normal, natural conversation with Jonathan and Amelia, and there's no awkward tension to it. Nothing like what Keith had said about Amelia had happened as of now, so I felt like I got really nervous and prepared for nothing. Then I heard the front door unlock.
I'm home. Oh, Keith. Welcome back home. Oh, long time no see, Seb.
Come to think of it, my brother-in-law Sebastian and his wife Clara were living together with Jonathan and Amelia. I greeted Sebastian as he came in, and to Clara, who was right behind him. Oh, hello. Nice to meet you.
Hello, hello. It's very nice to meet you. I never thought that my little brother would marry such a nice, wonderful person like you.
My first impression of Sebastian I had was that he was very cheerful, and that he was a nice, kind person. But compared to Sebastian, Clara, on the other hand, was quiet and polite, and she greeted me very quickly. And then, the next moment, Amelia gave a cold glare to Clara and said in a very low voice, "Oh, Clara, can you make us another coffee?" "Oh, okay. I will go make it now." My goodness, having an inconsiderate wife like her is such a hassle. Amelia smiled at us as she said that. Oh, now I see. Maybe this is what my husband was talking about. Amelia would blatantly change her attitude depending on that person. And Amelia would have a terrible attitude toward those who are in a much weaker position than she is. And right now, Clara is her target, but I am not surprised that she might turn the tables on me at any moment. My husband also has a very awkward look on his face when he sees Amelia's horrible attitude toward Clara. After finishing the coffee and sweets, my husband said,
"All right, let's get going,"
and tried to leave. Then Amelia would say, "Oh my, are you leaving already? Why don't you just have dinner with us? Come on, Clara, get the dinner ready." And to this, my husband refused, saying,
"That's okay. We have a restaurant we want to stop by on our way back to the hotel."
In the car on the way back to our hotel, my husband looked really uncomfortable.
I know, it was really off-putting, wasn't it?
Oh, you mean about your mother's attitude toward Clara?
Yeah. Mom has always been the type of person who is always unsatisfied, unless she gets to one-up a person. And at the moment, she's targeting Clara when Clara hasn't done anything wrong at all. But I'll make sure that you, Melissa, won't become my mom's target in the future.
Since Keith says so, I was relieved for the time being. After that, we took our time and went to my parents' house and finished the greetings before we got married. My parents liked my husband a lot, and they immediately got very close to each other. Keith also seemed to like my parents right away. And then we started to make preparations for our wedding bit by bit. Then we held a huge dinner party so that both our families could meet each other. But this was where it all went wrong. The dinner was held in a private room at a nice restaurant in California. Both of our parents greeted each other and took their seats. At first, everyone was distracted by the delicious food that was brought to the table, but as the conversation proceeded, gradually, Amelia became rude. I didn't get a chance to ask you properly before, but does Melissa's family live in Texas? Or live in California? Keith's parents live in California, and both Jonathan and Amelia are born and brought up in California. Keith moved to Texas for college, and then right after graduating college, since he got a job, he continued to live and work there. I also moved to Texas for college and began to work at a company after graduating college, and that is where I met my husband.
No, we're from Montana.
Yes, like what my dad answered now, my whole family was from Montana, and both my parents were born and brought up in Montana. Oh, Montana?
Yes. Is there something wrong with that?
Then Amelia sighed a little and said, No, I was just surprised. Something was wrong with Amelia's attitude. She was not being really friendly to my parents compared to how she was when Keith and I went to greet her. Then Amelia says this, Well, my image of Montana is just having very cold weathers during winter, and I don't get the impression that there are actually any people living there. Hearing this, both my parents and I were speechless. Are people properly keeping up with the modern civilization over there in Montana? Oh, I wonder if they have smartphones over there. Or perhaps people in Montana only use rotary dial phones? Perhaps it was the alcohol in her system, but she wouldn't stop slandering such outrageous things.
Hey, Mom, what are you talking about? It's not like you've even been to Montana, so you shouldn't say such things.
But this is important, isn't it? It would be a big problem if the woman who comes to marry you doesn't have a proper education or something like that. Besides, I just don't like the cold, and I never thought that it would be a place that I would go to, so that's why I don't go to Montana. Even though Dad was witnessing Amelia's terrible attitude, he replied back gently.
Well, we certainly do use smartphones. Besides, we're all used to the cold during the winter since we've been living there for a long time now.
Is that so? Anywho, what kind of work do you do, Henry? Dad was being so polite, but how could Amelia be rude like that?
I am in the construction business.
The construction business? Oh, wow. So, you're a craft worker.
Oh, no, I am...
Well, y'all must have been very poor.
Excuse me?
Both my husband Keith, my whole family, and I were just absolutely mortified and speechless at what my mother-in-law Amelia just said. Dad is working fairly well in the construction business, and Mom is a housewife, and they are both leading reasonably fulfilling lives together. But Amelia misunderstood that my parents were poor, and assuming that they were in a lower position than her, and started making such terrible things to them.
Mom, what are you even talking about? That's enough. I'm terribly sorry about this, Henry and Sarah. Oh, no, it's okay. It's not something you should be apologizing for, Keith.
Yes, that's right, Keith. Why are you the one apologizing? Well, it's all your fault, Amelia, so you should be the one to apologize, was what I had in my mind.
There now. Well, now that we've greeted each other today, let's just call it a day.
Jonathan, who couldn't say anything harsh and be strict to Amelia, ended the dinner party. The lively dinner party which everyone was enjoying got spoiled because of Amelia. After my husband sent Amelia and Jonathan home first, he came to us and apologized again and again.
No, it's not all your fault, Keith. But I don't know if I can let my daughter marry into a place with a mother-in-law like that.
Well, about that,
may I suggest something?
What my husband said after that surprised both my parents, and even I was surprised to know what Keith was thinking about. After that, my husband contacted Jonathan and questioned him about Amelia's attitude. Then, we found out something very surprising. Sebastian and Clara had divorced, and Clara had left Amelia and Jonathan's house. And now it all made sense to me. So, in other words, now that Amelia no longer had a target to bully, she was probably thinking of targeting me this time. But to pick on me even before Keith and I got married was too naive of Amelia. I wonder if she didn't think about the fact that I could avoid that situation. And a few months later, Keith and I finally held our wedding. Then, that morning, my husband received a phone call from Amelia. My husband answered the phone as he had felt that it's such a hassle to talk to Amelia.
Hello?
Hey, I didn't hear that you and Melissa was having your wedding ceremony today. I felt really embarrassed just a few minutes ago when my neighbor asked me why I was here and not at your wedding, you know.
Oh yeah, because I didn't invite you or Dad, so it's obvious that would happen, right?
Excuse me? What is the meaning of this?
I'm just so sick and tired of you. I'm going to be taken into Melissa's family, and I'm cutting family ties with you for good.
What are you talking about? I am not allowing you to do that. Where are you right now? We'll be at your wedding, so just tell us where you are.
No, it's impossible. Because our wedding is held in Montana, and it's where you don't even want to go to, right?
What?
Anyways, we're not family anymore now, so don't contact us anymore.
My husband said that and hung up the phone. Yes, this was the shocking idea which my husband suggested to me and my parents after the dinner party. Both my dad and mom were so moved by my husband's genuine enthusiasm that he really wanted to marry me that badly, and knowing that, they burst into tears and entrusted me to my husband, telling him to take care of their precious daughter. When my husband ended the call, I now received a call from Amelia. Since I had a few things to say, I decided to answer the phone. As soon as I picked up the phone, Amelia started to yell at me over the phone. What are you doing, brainwashing my son like that? Give me back my son! With all due respect, Amelia, you should realize that it is your fault and that this all happened because of you. Excuse me? Why should my precious son be taken into your poor family in the first place? You really don't listen, do you, Amelia? You only assumed and accused my dad of being poor before he even finished talking. What? My father is in the construction business, not as a craftsman, but as a business owner. What? I don't really like to talk about my family as if I'm bragging about them, but actually, my family owns a well-known company in Montana. Thanks to my family's effort, our annual sales have been steadily increasing, and this year we surpassed $5 million. What? Why didn't you tell me that earlier? If I knew this, then I would have taken you in properly as Keith's wife. Don't you even understand and realize that your own son was appalled by that kind of attitude you have, where it changes depending on someone's status? Anyway, the wedding is about to begin, so that's all I have to say. Oh, wait! We then had a happy wedding in our family home. By the way, Sebastian, whom I invited to the ceremony, was so impressed with Montana, where he came for the first time, and seeing Keith so determined being cut off with his parents, Sebastian also decided to change his mindset. Sebastian went back to Clara, got down on his knees and apologized, saying,
I'm sorry. I didn't notice how you were suffering with my parents until now.
And proposed to her that he would cut off his ties with his parents and move to Montana with her. Clara agreed to this, and now they both came to Montana, and we now live close to each other. Keith also feels reassured and a little more comfortable that his own big brother lives in the same area. And as for Amelia and Jonathan, Amelia blamed Jonathan for her own two sons cutting ties off from them, saying that it was his fault. And to that, Jonathan, who ran out of patience, snapped and decided to divorce her. In the end, Amelia lost her entire family and is now forced to live a life in poverty with a low-paying job and a pension all alone, apparently. Well, she deserved it, so I have no sympathy for her whatsoever. Keith, on the other hand, has joined my dad's company and will eventually take over as a CEO. He is desperately trying to learn his job, but he is very excited about being able to challenge and learn new things every day. I am so proud of Keith. We will continue to get along well as a married couple, support each other, and enjoy our lives together. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. We hope to see you in our next video.
A man who blames others for all his misfortunes. Yes, that's right. I'm talking about my husband. I lost a game because of you. I lost my job because of you. I got wet in rain because you wouldn't let me carry an umbrella. I'm unhappy because you're a plague. Here's my story of how I left home with my daughter, prepared for him to blame me for his unhappiness. My name is Shelley, and I'm 44 years old. My husband was my high school classmate, and we married when I was 23. I work part-time, 4 times a week at a nearby diner. We have one daughter, Emma, who will turn 20 this year, and she is a strong, bright girl. She graduated from high school and went to culinary school. She now works in a hotel restaurant. My husband is the assistant manager of a hamburger chain, so our family is in the food service industry. When I got home that day, my husband complained to me.
Why didn't you give me an umbrella this morning?
What?
You knew it might rain later in the evening, didn't you? You should have told me because you always spend your free time watching TV. Thanks to you, I got wet.
I don't know why he assumes that I watch TV in my free time. Anybody can get the weather forecast on their phone nowadays. You're not in elementary school. I can't take care of you like that. If you don't want to get wet, why didn't you buy an umbrella at the supermarket?
How can I buy such a thing out of my meager allowance? If you'd let me carry an umbrella, I wouldn't have to spend it. What a waste that would be.
Well, that's probably true. But you should have noticed and taken care of it yourself. And every single thing you say, it's so cheap. You say it's a small allowance, but it's supposed to be the average allowance for a man in his 40s. Or are all men in the world like this? Do all the men in the world complain to their wives like this every day? As we're all in the food service industry, it's not always easy to get time off together. It's rare that we're off on weekends and holidays, or at least there are very few days when my husband and I have the same days off. But one day when I had my day off for my part-time job, my daughter was also free. So for the first time in a long time, my daughter and I decided to go shopping together. We shopped till we were satisfied, but we only ended up buying daily necessities and food. Then we had lunch at the food court.
Dad, you were classmates in high school, right?
My daughter says while carrying the chocolate sundae we were having for dessert to her mouth. That's right.
What was it that made you decide?
I don't know. Well, I realized that
I have never told my daughter the story of how we got married. Now he has gained weight and there's no trace of it. In high school, my husband was the ace of the baseball team, and I was the manager of the team.
Wow, what youth!
After graduating from high school, we each got a job. When we turned 20, we met again at a reunion and started dating. We dated for about 2 years and got married.
So cliche!
My daughter laughs as she says that. Not everybody's life is as dramatic as the movies. What about you, James, right? How's the relationship going? My daughter's dating a guy 3 years older than her at the restaurant where she works. She hasn't introduced him to me, but from what I've heard, he seems like a nice young man.
It's going pretty well. It's hard for both of us to get time off on the same day, but we've been talking lately about how we want to have a small restaurant together in the future.
What? Are you guys talking about marriage?
Nah, it's still a long way to go. We need to work hard now and save up for the future.
They're both working hard toward the same goal. Even if you break up, you'll still have some money saved up, I said jokingly.
Oh my God, Mom, don't say that.
She laughed. It's times like this that I'm glad I had a girl. If my child had been a boy, I wouldn't have such a close relationship.
But you know what? Dad always blames others for everything, doesn't he? When I was a kid, I remember he'd always say things like, I missed the train because you needed to go to the bathroom on the way out, and I got a cold because I had to go pick you up. I've recently realized that you get that too. Like the other day when he said that you didn't let him take his umbrella.
You just noticed that now? He's always been like that. Every bad thing that happens is somebody else's fault but his own. He's the type that says it's not my fault. Every opportunity he has.
Oh, really? He's a jerk, isn't he?
Is my husband a jerk? I never thought about it until my daughter told me. Not so much as to blame anyone. I just thought of it as a whine or a complaint. Around when you were born, your father worked in a restaurant. It was a pretty high-class place. One day, one of his regular customers made a reservation to treat an important client.
Oh no, I have a bad feeling about this.
The client was allergic to nuts, and your father was in charge of dessert. The customer had warned him to be careful of his allergy, but at that time, common allergens were only crustaceans like shrimp or almonds.
Nowadays, it's known that people can be allergic to almost everything.
But your father thought he was talking about his allergy to almonds, so he served it with cashews instead of almonds.
Well, that's...
The customer was furious because he had warned him beforehand, and his boss also said that he'd warned him beforehand and your father was at fault. Well, it's his fault for not making sure, but he ended up getting fired because of it.
I can sympathize with him, but...
He still sometimes recalls that time, saying it was because of that boss, even though it was 20 years ago. We came home with a huge baggage, continuing our mother-daughter talk while putting away the things we'd bought.
Maybe that's why I fell in love with James. He's always so positive. Sometimes I think he's a little crazy, but I like his positive attitude and his perseverance.
Yeah? But in 20 years, you'll probably think he's really crazy.
Oh my God, Mom, that's so funny. It's so funny because it's so possible.
I love it when she's upbeat like this.
I'd rather have a happy idiot than a depressed idiot.
Are you talking about your dad?
Maybe.
After 20 years of being a married couple, you're bound to have some frustrations, but you manage to live with each other. I thought that's what married couples did. We'd bought some Chinese food requested by daughter at the food court. My daughter said it's okay to cut corners once in a while.
What's with the takeout Chinese food? You're cutting corners, aren't you?
My husband complained, as expected.
I told Mom I wanted to eat it.
My daughter covered for me, so my husband said nothing more. He has a weakness for his daughter.
Apparently a guy the same age as me became the manager of the store in the next town over. The previous manager was transferred to the head office. It's probably because it's in a better location and they have more sales than us. Our store is not so good because the manager is useless.
If the manager is useless, why don't you work harder to make up for it?
Maybe it's because of the conversation we had during the day. My daughter is very critical of her father today.
It's not that simple. You're too young to understand. I know the guy that got promoted, and when I worked with him, he was really useless. He was just a normal waiter for a long time, but he got married and got promoted maybe because his wife brought something good to him. Unlike us, they have 3 kids.
I'm sorry I'm the only kid here. Isn't that because that person was willing to work hard for the family? If you say that about him, it's like it's Mom's fault that you can't get promoted.
I'm not saying that.
Yes, he is. It's always someone else's fault that things aren't going well for him. If someone else is doing well, it's not their own effort, but he just sees it as luck. Hey, stop arguing over dinner. When I warned them, they ate their meals in silence. After he finished eating, he quickly went to the bathroom.
Aren't you angry at what he's been saying?
My daughter said while drinking tea after dinner. I'm not angry at him for such a little thing. No, actually, I am angry. But I've given up on saying it.
Do you respect him?
What? Respect? I don't think so.
After what he said to you, you're going to live the rest of your life with someone you don't respect?
Well, when you put it that way, and considering the average life expectancy, I'm just about at the halfway point. My daughter's straightforward question stuck in my mind in a way I didn't expect. In a few years, she'll be out of this house, and when she does, I'll be alone with him. For the first time, the words middle-aged divorce popped into my head. A few days later, my husband said,
Maybe I should change jobs. The manager and the part-timers are useless. I really don't have any luck.
I can't imagine that changing jobs at the age of 44 is going to be a good thing. You always blame someone else. It's not going to work out if you change jobs like that.
But it's true.
You blame everyone around you for everything. You never change.
What the hell? What do you know?
You know Konosuke Matsushita, the founder of Panasonic in Japan? When he held job interviews, he'll ask the applicants if they were lucky. And he didn't recruit them if they answered that they were unlucky, no matter how good they were.
What the heck is that?
That's why I think you will be rejected in the interview, even if you try to change your job. My husband fell silent after hearing about an anecdote about the god of management I happened to see on the internet recently. A few days after that happened, my husband, who rarely comes home after drinking, came home very drunk.
Today was the welcome party for the new manager.
What? The store in the next town over?
No, the manager of our store suddenly resigned and decided to go back to his hometown.
If that's the case, he should have told me beforehand. I wouldn't have made dinner then.
I'm the assistant manager, so I'm supposed to be the next in line for manager, right? But the guy who was assistant manager at the other store became our manager. It's not right, is it?
If I told him my honest opinion at a time like this, a fight would definitely break out, so I kept my mouth shut. My daughter seemed to want to say something, but didn't.
Then they told me that starting next month, my salary would be reduced.
What? Why?
Penalty for food poisoning. $200 less for 6 months. The previous manager was so stressed out over it that he quit.
It's a big deal for a restaurant to cause food poisoning. We take every precaution to make sure that doesn't happen.
It's the part-timer's fault. Why would you come to work and not report that one of your family members caught the virus? I bet he didn't wash his hands properly.
The norovirus is highly contagious and pretty nasty. Isn't it the job of the higher-ups to manage the part-timers properly so that it doesn't happen? I'm also in the business of serving food to customers, so I got a little angry.
Shut up. What's the matter with you? It's your fault I didn't get promoted and my salary is reduced.
Huh? What? You may be drunk, but there is a limit to how far you can go with blaming others.
Nothing good has happened since I married you. You plague.
You went so far, now treating me like a plague. Oh, God. I can only sigh now. At that moment, my daughter said,
Should we leave, Mom?
Maybe he'll be happier if the plague leaves.
What are you saying? Are you idiots? If you want to leave, why don't you just leave then?
He's drunk, so he obviously feels confident. Well, I'll take your word for it and leave. I'm sick and tired of you making everything someone else's fault. But it's your fault we're leaving. With that being said, my daughter and I packed the bare minimum of our belongings and left the house.
What do you want to do? Go to your parents' house?
It's too much trouble to explain everything. Let's stay in a hotel somewhere.
I guess so. There's a nice hotel in front of the station. Let's stay there.
It was kind of refreshing. I was treated like a plague, but I felt more like I was freed from the plague. The next morning, I got several calls on my phone in the early hours. That's when my husband usually gets up and gets ready. I don't know how much he remembers about last night. He probably woke up and is in a panic after realizing that his daughter and I were gone. I ignored the calls, and soon after, my daughter's phone rang. You don't have to answer it, just ignore it. I have the day off today, but my daughter has to go to work at 10. We had an elegant breakfast at a hotel restaurant, just the two of us. I'm going home once during the day to get a few more things. Let's stay here at least one more night and figure out what we're going to do.
Okay, I forgot my phone charger, so please pick that up for me too.
She said that and left for work. I wondered what I would do if my husband took the day off work and stayed home, but it never happened. Our family lives in a 3-bedroom apartment. We talked about buying a house a long time ago, but in the end we decided that it might be better to save up for retirement. So we ended up staying in the apartment. But I'm really glad I'm not tied down to a house. I guess I'm lucky too.
After what he said to you, you're going to live the rest of your life with someone you don't respect?
I was thinking about what my daughter said to me. He's not unfaithful. He's not a violent man. He's not a bad husband, but he's not a good husband either. Maybe he's a normal husband, but I thought of living with him for the next half of my life. And I didn't want to live with him. I didn't want to live with a man who called me a plague. No, thank you. That night, to my surprise, my daughter came back to the hotel room with her boyfriend.
Mom, I'm sorry to drop in on you like this. James and I have been talking, and if you really want to move out of that house, would you like to rent a room with us?
My daughter surprised me when she said that. Her boyfriend James is a big, bright young man.
It's funny that I'm saying this because we've just met. We've been talking about moving in together for a while now. But when I think about saving money, I thought it would be better for both of us to stay at home.
That's right. And we both work full time. So it would be great if you could take care of the house.
That would be great for me, but I'm not intruding, am I?
Not at all.
They both said that in unison. The next day I waited for my husband to come home. I don't want to be with somebody who calls me a plague, so please let me leave you. I put the divorce papers on the table and said to my husband,
What? Are you kidding me? Are you really going to leave?
Yeah, you'll be happy when the plague is gone, won't you? You're not going to say that now your wife is gone and start blaming things on it again, right? What's your excuse going to be now?
Oh, that's... Calling you a plague was just... It was more of a figure of speech, because I was drunk.
Don't blame the alcohol. I'm sick of it. I'll take half of your savings, since it's our joint property.
How could you?
My husband looked at the statement while saying that.
What? Is this half?
He's obviously surprised. My husband's salary is not a lot, but I managed to make ends meet. I had saved up nearly $140,000 by combining my salary of working part-time. Half of that is about $70,000. If you're going to take it, you have to sign the divorce agreement. I told him to sign it, and he did. I had a little hope at this point of him stopping and apologizing to me.
You saved so much money by making ends meet with my small salary. You're a good wife, and I'm sorry. I'm going to change and do my best from now on, so please forgive me.
If he really did say that, I might have reconsidered. But it's just a dream that can't come true. In reality, my husband was blinded by the $70,000 he had in front of him.
he signed the divorce agreement. It was as easy as playing catch. And so I moved in with my daughter and her boyfriend, James, in a 3-bedroom apartment. I continued to work part-time as before while being in charge of the meals and the laundry. The cleaning is done by the 2 youngsters on their days off. It's hard to get the same days off, but when they come home, they seem to be happy to be getting time together with each other. Both my daughter and her boyfriend are cheerful, and we have a lot of laughs every day.
I'm happy to be able to eat delicious food both in the morning and at night thanks to you, Shelley.
I'm happy to hear him say that. After that, I heard that my ex-husband really changed his job. Or more precisely, he tried to change jobs. He quit the hamburger chain restaurant that he had been dissatisfied with. I think it was because he had money in his pocket. For a while, he was living off that money. When he had about a third of the money left, he finally started looking for a job. But even though he went to job interviews, he never found a new job, and he finally ran out of money. He's called me once and cried to me.
Because you unilaterally asked me for a divorce. I'm in a lot of trouble. If you feel bad about it, just please lend me some money.
I see that he still hasn't gotten over his habit of blaming everyone else. I don't feel bad at all, so I won't give you money. I'm happy now and I feel like I'm living my life. You can't keep blaming everyone else like that. Take responsibility for your own life. Goodbye. With that, I hung up the phone. 3 years later, my daughter and her boyfriend got married. They didn't have a ceremony or reception. They said they would use the money to open their own restaurant. At least you should wear a dress, take pictures, or at least take a honeymoon. I'll pay for it.
What? You've helped me a lot to open the store. You're supposed to be working for us, so you don't have to do that.
My daughter hesitates. I want to do it. Seeing you happy is what makes me happy. When I said that, she agreed with me with tears in her eyes.
You know, Mom, I've told Dad that I'm getting married. After all, he is my father.
Isn't that good? I split up, so he's a stranger to me. But your father and daughter. Did he say anything?
Yeah, just congratulations. He cared more about you than he did about me. He said he didn't realize how much he appreciated you until he lost everything.
Really? Didn't he say he was unhappy because of me?
No, he didn't. He said he's changed and is working harder than ever.
I see.
I'm hoping one day my father will come to eat at our restaurant.
She's a sweet, positive girl. When my daughter and her husband opened their restaurant, they received a little congratulatory flower from my ex-husband. I almost cried when I saw it, and I thought, if he shows up someday, I wonder if I could welcome him with a smile.